What's up everyone, it's Kenji here, and today I thought I'd go over some of the most useful PowerPoint shortcuts. I'll break this video down into three main areas. Firstly, we'll go over some slide layout shortcuts. Secondly, we'll go over some formatting shortcuts. And thirdly, we'll go over some shortcuts when presenting to a group of people. And you can download the file I'll be working with for free, as I'll link it in the description as a Google Sheets. To edit it, just go to File, Download, Microsoft PowerPoint so you can follow along. Alright, let's get into it. So firstly, we've got the slide layout, and one thing that's very common in PowerPoint is to have the logo of the company that you work at or the university that you study at the very bottom of the slide. So you can either do that one by one by pressing the Ctrl+C key, then going to the next slide, pressing the Ctrl+V, but that's obviously quite tedious. Or you can use this other thing called the Slide Master, which, as the name suggests, basically controls all the slides. And overall, to get to it, you'll have to press the Alt key, and you see that when you press the Alt key, all of these other letters and numbers start to show up at the very top. They're essentially shortcuts to replace the mouse and navigate more efficiently. If you ever press the Alt key by mistake, you can always press Escape to get out of that. So let's go to the Slide Master by pressing the Alt, W standing for View, and then we'll press the M, which stands for the Slide Master over here. And what the Slide Master does is that it gives the same layout to all the slides. So for example, you could be adding a logo, you could be changing the background style to a darker color, you could also be, say, changing the font and so on. And let's just say that we work at Google, so we want to have a Google logo at the end of each slide. So we'll press Ctrl+V here on the Slide Master, and from there you can close the master view by clicking here, or alternatively the shortcut for that is the Alt-WL. And now you'll see that the Google logo isn't just on this slide, but instead it's on all the slides. But there's more to the Slide Master, so let's go back in it by pressing the Alt-WM. And from there you'll see that if you keep pressing the up arrow, you'll notice that the very top slide is actually bigger in size than the other ones. This one's known as the master. And so if you make a change over here, that means that it's going to happen to all of the other slides as well. Whilst if you go one down, say, these are what are known as submasters, meaning that the change will only happen to the ones that have the exact same structure. So let's say we go to this fourth one here, which has two different boxes, and say because we actually want a white image over here, we're going to change the background style to a darker color. Now, if we exit by pressing the Alt-WL, you'll see that only the slide that had this specific format has actually changed, all the other ones have remained the same. Now, when you're not in the Slide Master view, you'll notice that even if you want to change where the logo is positioned or its size, you're actually not able to do so, and that's the same for all of them. And the reason for that is because you can only edit it once you're in the Slide Master. And that's actually quite handy in case you don't want people to distort your logo or change its size. And here's some more general shortcuts for slide layouts. The first one has to do with pressing the Ctrl+M key, which is just going to add a new slide by Ctrl+M. Similarly, say we select this one, so click on it first and then press the Ctrl+D. If we like it a lot, we can always duplicate it like that. Lastly, you can always press the Ctrl+N, which is going to open up a new file for you. And in case you don't want that file, you want to close it, you can always just press the Ctrl+W again to close it. And if this video does well, I'll consider making a part 2, so make sure you hit that like button down below. Alright, moving on to some formatting shortcuts, and for that we'll use the Quick Access toolbar. At the very top left of PowerPoint, you'll notice that you have this thing here, and that's what's known as the Quick Access toolbar. You can kind of see it as customizable shortcuts. Say we've got this slide over here with the 4 company names, and they're not very well aligned, so let's say we want to left align them. Firstly, we'll select all of them. Once we've done that, you're gonna need to go to Alt, then JD. From there, you'll have to go to AA, so press the A twice, L for left align, and there you go. As you probably noticed though, that actually took quite a few steps to get to, so you had to memorize a lot of different keystrokes. That's why the Quick Access toolbar can come handy. Right now, if we look at what's on it, we have the Save shortcut over here, which is just Ctrl+S, so it's quite easy to memorize. We have the Undo, so the Ctrl+Z. We have the Redo, which is the Ctrl+Y. And then lastly, we have the slideshow format, which is just F5. So they're actually all quite easy to memorize. So let's change those to something a bit more useful. For that, just go to the drop down over here and go to More Commands. Here on the right hand side, you can see what we currently have, and then on the left side is what options there are available to us. So first things first, let's just remove all of these because they're not really all that useful for us. So I personally find the alignment ones quite useful, so we'll change these here and just go to all commands so you can find it. And from there, just type AL, so for alignment, align objects, we want to add that one. Let's also add some shape ones, so just type shaping here. And from there, we'll just get this first one over here and press the add key. So let's just leave it at that for now. You can obviously add more or subtract some if you don't want them. Press the OK key, and you'll notice that this very top has now changed to only these 2 keys, and they have a drop down for aligning, and then the other one is for the different shapes that you can add. So in this case here, let's say we want to actually just make sure that they're all in the same spacing. So for that, you can just press the Alt, and now all we have to press is the 1 key, and from there we'll distribute vertically, so press the V key, and they're all aligned now. So instead of having to go through all the trouble that we had before of going to Alt, JD, then pressing AA, and so on, this one's just a lot faster now. So based on what you find yourself doing most, you can obviously change that accordingly. Do keep in mind that if it's something very simple, a very simple shortcut, then you probably don't want to put it there. You want to put more complex ones. Once we have the alignment the way we like it, we can press the Ctrl G key, which stands for grouping. And now you can see that you can move them all together consistently, and it's not possible for you to say just change one and move it along to the other side by mistake. And you can always change their sizes while keeping them consistent by pressing the Shift and the arrow keys. So arrow up, arrow down, and then left and right. If you ever want to ungroup though, just press the Ctrl Shift group, and from there you'll have them selected individually. Now moving on to actual text shortcuts, if you ever say you want to change the alignment of this one to the center say, you can press the Ctrl E key, Ctrl right key to the right, and Ctrl L to go put it back to the left. Similarly, if you want to get to the last word over here quickly, instead of having to scroll through pressing the right and left arrow, you can press the Control keys, which is just going to skip words one by one. If you ever want to select a specific word, you can press the Control, Shift, and right arrow in this case, left arrow to deselect it. Or if you want to select everything, you can press the Ctrl A as well. If you want to increase the font size, just press the Ctrl Shift and then the greater than or the smaller than signs. And you might already know these last three, so I'll go by them quickly. Ctrl B, which is to bolden or unbolden say, Ctrl I to italicize, and then Ctrl U to underline. Press the escape key to get out of that. And another cool one is the Ctrl F, which is for find, so if you want to find something in particular. Or alternatively, you can press the Ctrl H key, which is going to replace something. And you might wonder in which kind of a context would you need to replace something. That's usually if you've made a typo, for example. Maybe you spelled my name as Benji instead of Kenji, then you can just type Benji there and do it for replace all for Kenji. And that's happened to me more than once, where you finish a PowerPoint of say 20 slides, you pass it to your manager, and then he or she realizes that there's a typo in the name of a foreign company, for example. Instead of having to go through each slide looking for a typo, you can just press the Ctrl H, and that's going to help you out. Another really handy one is moving bullets up and down. So for example, in here we have the key steps in my project, and we have all these 4 steps. And let's say that our manager says, well, you should actually have pay on the very top instead of the plan. Well, the one way you can go about it is pressing the Ctrl Shift and left arrow here, pressing the Ctrl C for copy, and then pasting over here, and then trying to delete that one after, which is a bit of a pain. So press the Ctrl Z and Ctrl Z again to go back to what it was. And instead what we're gonna do is select the pay, Ctrl Shift right arrow, and instead what you want to do is press the Shift Alt up arrow, and you'll see that they all move along smoothly. And if you ever find yourself editing a new slide and you want to see what it actually looks like with text, here's how you can go about it. So go up here to the blue one, for example, and instead of actually typing each thing and then looking at how it looks like, you can press the Ctrl A to delete that, and then go to equals, and then you'll type lorem, open brackets and close brackets, press enter, and you'll see that it auto-populates, in this case with Latin text. That's why I have all of these bullets over here in Latin, for example, in case you're wondering. But instead, you can also do Ctrl A, delete here, and if you want them in English, for example, go equals rand, open brackets and close brackets, press enter. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the text is quite random. In this case, you got the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, so I'm not sure if that's something you want to show. Let's move up one slide, and you can see that suppose we want to add a shape here, you can press the Alt 2 key, and then say we want to add a line like this one here. You'll notice that it's actually quite hard to make it straight, so usually it goes up or down a bit. You can press the Shift key, and that's always going to guarantee that it's straight for you. That same kind of concept applies to, say, a rectangle, for example. So you'll select it here, and then if you press the Shift key, it's actually going to be a perfect square for you. And same thing applies to a circle, for example, where it's going to have a lot of distortion when you're doing it like this, but if you press the Shift key, it's always going to be consistent. Now moving on to some shortcuts when actually presenting. Let's say you're in a meeting room, for example, and you're presenting to a client or to your management team. So starting off with the basics, press the F5 key to make it into the slideshow view. And from there, the arrow keys are obviously going to make it move up and down. And suppose you have an important number in one slide and you want to make sure that everyone's paying attention, you can always press the W key, which is going to make it white so you can see if they're actually paying attention, or the B key, which is going to make it black. That's also useful in case somebody that's not supposed to be in the meeting all of a sudden shows up and you have some confidential information on there. You can just press the B key to make it all black. And while presenting, maybe someone in the audience points out that they can't see a particular number because it's too small for them. What you can do, sort of the unglamorous way, would be to press the escape key and have to zoom in from there, which is not great because they get to see all the other slides. So instead what you can do is press the F5 key again to go to the slide mode. And from there you can just press the plus sign. that's going to have you zoom in, and if you ever want to move it around, you can just do it with the mouse and then minus sign to zoom out. If you find yourself wanting to emphasize where your cursor is, you can always press the ctrl L key. That's going to give you this laser-like thing, which is quite common in schools, for example. And while you're emphasizing a point, maybe the management team doesn't like what you wrote there, so for that you can just press the ctrl P key, and that's going to give you a pen tool, so you can always change it like that, just in case you remind yourself and they get to see that you're actually going to make that change. Overall, I think the presentation shortcuts are a great way to impress your managers, or seen another way, not embarrass yourself. If you enjoyed this video, check out this other video I made on Excel shortcuts, which I'll leave somewhere up here. That's all for this one. Hit the like, hit the subscribe if you liked it, and I'll catch you in the next one.